5 Minutes of Math. This is Mr. Lunsford, and I am glad you joined me this evening. Tonight's homework is for the evening of March 23rd, 2018, and we're looking at triangles and reflections. Now, we haven't talked about reflections, rotations, and translations, but I promise you it's easy. Let's get started. Alright, so for the first one, we're reviewing the Pythagorean theorem, and what they did was to take a triangle, turn it upside down, and kind of put it on top of the state of Virginia. And yes, Virginia does sort of look like a triangle. Here we have, in miles, 360 miles, that's our side A. We have 224 miles, that's our side B. And what we're looking for is side C, or basically the southern border of the state. So, if we take this thing apart, we have the Pythagorean theorem, a squared plus b squared equals c squared, 360 squared plus 224 squared equals c squared. Then we have 129,600 plus 50,176 equals c squared. And then we add those two, we get this 179,776. We take the square root of both sides, and we end up with 424. That's our C, 424 miles. So what they're saying here is the southern border of Virginia is about 424 miles. The answer is B. The answer is B. All right, so moving on to number 2. If we look at this question, it says reflect the point -4, -2 across the x-axis. What are the new coordinates? Well, when we see the word reflect, we're doing the exact same thing we see when we're in a mirror. So let me show you what I'm talking about. Here is our graph. Here's our grid, our coordinate plane. And if you notice, you see 0, it goes down to -5 on the y-axis, it goes up to 6 on the y-axis, and our x-axis is from -5 to +2. Well, that point -4, -2 is where that block is sitting. Okay, that entire black block is -4, -2. Now, we're going to reflect that point across the x-axis. What do we mean by that? Well, here's the x-axis, all right? Now, what we're going to do is treat it like a mirror. So what would that brick see if it looked into a mirror? This is what it would see. Here's the brick as it's shown as a reflection across the x-axis. Now, what are the new coordinates? If you notice, the new coordinates here are -4, +2. So all we're doing is multiplying that y-coordinate by -1. So -2 times -1 is +2. And if we look at this again, that blue box is sitting right at -4, +2. So the answer here is F. And again, this is a topic that we'll cover in the 4th 9 weeks. So just trust me on this, the answer is F. Moving on. This is number 3. And here's a house. And the question is talking about a young lady who's looking at a house and looking at it in a lake, and looking at its image in a lake. Well, there's not just a house. Here's this stick guy outside practicing calisthenics or some sort of kung fu. So what do we see when they're in a lake? All right, so here's the surface of the lake. Here's the reflection of the house. Here's the reflection of the guy as he's practicing his kung fu. And this is a reflection. So what kind of image are we seeing? How are we rearranging the original image? It's a reflection. The answer is B. The answer is B. Going on. Which could not be the sides of a right triangle? This is the Pythagorean theorem test. So we have to work backwards in this one. We have F, 5, 12, 13. That's a Pythagorean triple. So what we have to do with every combination they give us in these particular answers is to plug A and B in and see if we get C. So we plug 5 and 12 in as our A and B and see if we get the C that they say we should get. So yes, for F, when we plug in 5 and 12 into A and B, yes, we get 13 as our C when we work through the theorem. So F could be a theoretical right triangle. With, that should say FG. That should say G instead of B. Sorry about that. So we have here 13, 84, and 85. So if I plug in 13 and 84, do I get 85 as my answer? Yes, I do. Using 13 as A and using 84 as B, when we work through the theorem on our own, we get 85. And yes, G is a possible right triangle with sides of 13, 84, and 85. So let's look at H. The sides are 16 for A, 63 for B, and 65 for C. Remember, your hypotenuse is always your longest side. So A squared plus B squared equals C squared. When we plug in 16 and 63, what do we get? We get 65 as our C. So H is a possibility. Now, this last one is a little bit different, because when we plug in 12 and 60 as our A and B, you see that long decimal down there? Well, that's 61.188234163, and so on. That's the actual C, not 62. So that tells us that J is the wrong answer. Therefore, the answer is J. 12, 60, and 62 cannot be the sides of a right triangle because it doesn't match the Pythagorean theorem. Moving on. This is our last one. What are the coordinates of the image of point N after a translation 3 units right and 5 units down? Well, what in the world is a translation, Mr. Lunsford? Well, a translation means you're moving, okay? You're moving. And literally, the word translation means moving across, some kind of movement. The word lateral, yeah. So if we're looking at this, here's our coordinate plane again, all right? And you can see where our x's are sitting and where our y-axis is sitting. If you look at this coordinate plane, we're starting off with that brick sitting at -4, +2. So that's our starting point, -4, +2. Now, if we move this thing 3 units to the right, this is what it looks like. Moving right, see that green arrow? 1 unit, 2 units, 3 units. All right, so we are at our brand new point, and that brand new point is at -1. So our change is +3. Now, let's move our 5 units down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I told you this was easy. Our new point on the y-axis is -3. So when we're doing our changes, all we're doing is a little bit of integer addition and subtraction. -4 plus 3 is -1, and 2 minus 5 is -3. So our new point is -1, -3. All right, see where that blue box is sitting? So our answer is -1, -3. The answer is C. And that's it. And again, we will go over this in the next semester, but it will make sense, I promise. Y'all take care, and remember, math is not just about numbers. It's all about the relationships that surround us every day. Have a good one.